Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, thank you for joining us and welcome to the webinar, How to Sell Your Services as a Consultant. My name is Sarah Wilson and I'm the Marketing Specialist here at Customer Focus. And today you're in for a treat as we have Martin Varley as the main presenter. Martin is the Group Commercial Director here at Customer Focus, and he has over 15 years of experience founding, developing, and leading promotional product distributors to success, including 4 imprints. So needless to say, you're in great hands.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction, and thank you all for joining. I can see we've got people from literally all over the world. So obviously, good evening to people in the UK, Germany, and France, and good morning to everybody here on the West Coast, and almost good afternoon to everybody on the East. So thank you very much for your time. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about how to kind of get better value for your time in the same way, and we'll come on to it, that we do from when we use services from attorneys or lawyers. And that's kind of an interesting kind of thing, because you talk to an attorney and you ask them a question and they answer it in 5 minutes and they send you a bill for $1,000 and you say, hey, how did that happen? And they say, well, it took me 5 minutes to do the work, but it took me 20 years to learn how to do it. And that's kind of what we need to be thinking about. So one of the key parts when I'm talking to people at shows and at events around the world is that they spend kind of a lot of time on, if I ask them, hey, how do you spend your time? They always come up with researching products. It is a big kind of user of their time. So I just wouldn't mind getting from you, if you can quickly type in an answer as to how much of your time you spend each day researching products for customers, just to get a feeling for if we're similar to other people. So just if it's 10%, 50%, 20%, whatever you feel. Okay, so it looks like I'm getting answers here between as low as 30 and as much as 60% of time being spent. And what's really interesting about that, another one there for 40. Another way interesting about that is that when you try and break that down, there's quite a difference between researching products, which is what I would say, if you were working for a retail store and you were looking for your next big collection, researching products is really finding nice designs, finding great products, rather than just saying, okay, we might think of research products as where can I get that same pen or that same t-shirt cheaper. And again, in the figures we get, 50% of the time people spend researching products. They're not really coming up with innovative solutions, product solutions. What they're really doing is just trying to get a better price. So I want to come back to that in a few minutes. But the other question I've got is how often do people take those ideas, assuming there are ideas, and then shop around for a better price? If you can just tap in a quick percentage there again. Okay, well, there's a pretty high one at 70, 80. We've got one at 80%. We've got one at 50%. So this is kind of, really gets the core of this issue. One at 25, one at 45, for half the time. So this kind of gets the core of the issue, which is effectively what's happening. I guess the analogy I use with the attorney is, it's like you say to the attorney, can you draft an agreement out for me? I want to employ somebody. They send the draft to you, and then you would go and then say to another attorney, hey, can I have this same agreement, but I want it at a lower price? I mean, that just never happens, because I don't know why, but it never happens. And I guess there is some change in that marketplace with legal Zoom, people going online, buying a commodity legal agreement in the same way as they might go online and buy a commodity t-shirt or pen from Vistaprint. But what doesn't happen in any other business, be it advertising agencies or anything else, is that people take your creative and then go and shop it around. So I'd like to get into a bit of why that is and what we can do about it.
Yeah, and then Martin, I see we have another question in. Somebody's asking, how important is a transactional website?
Well, okay, that's a big question. I think it's probably about as important as being able to, walk and talk at the same time. I think transactional websites are the absolute key now, but I think there's some slides later on that might deal with that better. But I actually think unless you've got a website, you're not in business. That was maybe the thing of 7 years ago. If you haven't got a transactional website, you're not going to be in business, was something that somebody very smart said to me recently. So we'll come back to it. Thank you.
Right.
So I used the analogy earlier about lawyers. Most lawyers provide similar services, but you don't shop around once you've selected you're a lawyer or attorney. You just don't. And the same should apply to us. Once you've given all your help and energy in understanding their brand and going in with the right product for the right purpose, you wouldn't expect them, or wonder why they would need to want to go shop around. So one of the things that we've discovered from tons and tons of research is actually price isn't the deciding factor. And part of that is because, nobody, well, I don't know nobody, but I've never met anybody on their business card that has the title promotional products buyer or business gift buyer. There just isn't anybody in the world. It's, as we know, it's always another part. It's a fundamental part, an important part of the marketing mix, but it's not the only part, and it tends to be at the lowest level, left to maybe the executive assistant to do if it's a smaller company, and if it's a larger company, it'll be within the marketing department, either in print or in marketing services or in recruitment. But as we know, it's all over the place.
I think we went forward a little bit too much. Sorry. There we go. Okay.
So what we, so the whole issue about prices, how do we then find customers who want consultancy and therefore, willing to pay for it, rather than just have that scenario of, can I get the better price? And some of that comes from us. If you look at many people's websites today, if you look at the banners on their homepage, a small percentage, and last I looked, it's a figure less than 10%, they have their call to action as save now, buy now and save, 20% discount, we'll beat any price, whatever. And that's kind of what people are leading with. So you could imagine that, and it's really interesting. If you, God forbid, needed to go to, I know Sarah here had to suffer having some wisdom teeth out on Friday, but I'm kind of guessing, Sarah, that when you were looking for the specialist type of dentist that does that, you didn't go on one that said 50% off wisdom teeth now, Friday blowout special.
No.
You probably went for one that had a nice picture of somebody in a nice, soothing environment and looked to be an expert in that field.
Absolutely. And the other part of it was, I kind of had a friend who referred me, so that kind of ties into credibility, which we'll actually touch on later.
Yeah, and I think that's really relevant. So I just came in from London late last night, and I was chatting on the plane actually to a brand manager for a big pharmaceutical company, and just talking about how they used to spend literally tens of millions of pounds, on this stuff, and how it's kind of changed now. So they spend it on what they call PI, prescribing information products. But we also talked about a little bit about economics, and for those of you who've read the book Freakonomics, there's a really interesting point in that about what you would pay for aspirin or acetaminophen. And if you've got a really bad headache and you're in the hotel lobby and you need some acetaminophen or I forget the brands you use here, Tylenol or whatever.
Ibuprofen.
Yeah, ibuprofen. It's kind of proven that people will pay 3 times the price for the brand because they're sure they're going to get their headache cleared up. Now, if you think about when I talk to marketing services folks that are spending millions of pounds a year or dollars a year, they kind of do a great job really of checking the validity and efficacy of their media campaigns. They have monitoring services, they have checking services that they can make sure the advert did get played at that time, and they spend, as you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the creative for a TV or a web advert. But they kind of push down the promotional products part to perhaps lie down the organization. And so what we need to do is have people recognize the importance of this, and us to explain how actually it is a fundamental part of the marketing mix. So one of the key things, a bit like using the wisdom teeth example, is again most surgeons or doctors that if you see their adverts or their websites, they talk about they're the expert in knees or hips or arms or whatever. But at my age, it's probably I need to think about a hip. But effectively, they don't market themselves as generalists. They market themselves as specialists. And so what we need to do all is to find our specialism and promote into it. And an interesting story, going back in 1987 when I first started selling promotional products, and my first day, and really there was a really comprehensive 4-hour training course before I was set out knocking on doors. And at the end of 4 hours, I'd been given one pen to understand, and I had a little test, and they said, what colors does this pen come in? And I said, blue, grey, white, black, whatever, yellow. What's the refill? Well, it's a long life refill. And how much did it cost? And £1 or $1, whatever it was. And he said, great, you got it, off you go. And I said, well, hang on a minute. He said, look, you now know more about that pen than anybody else in the world. So my expertise at that point, for what it's worth, was that particular pen, and all I did for a long time was sell that pen. But now we kind of need to be smarter, and defining a niche is a really great thing. So what I would say is identify a niche, and I had this conversation with a distributor in London last week, And it was Monday last week, and he said, what do I do? I said, well, I'm looking at this presentation I'm doing, so why don't you go and try it out? And I suggested that because the real estate market is kind of teetering in the edge in London a little bit, the prices just might start to fall, that he targeted real estate agents. And he went out, started Monday, and by the end of the Friday when I caught up with him again for a cup of coffee, he had 150 people who expressed an interest, and he actually had 3 orders. Now, not huge orders, they were about £600 to $900 each, but he'd become an expert, and what he did was he's very smart. He went out each morning and he Googled real estate news, and he basically became an expert when he was talking to his customers and prospects. So I would say pick a niche. We've all done, I used to be a photographer, and I also can fly, so when I talk to people, I tend to find people that have a similar interests. And so I can work well with anything that's to do with design, photography, or whatever, and I can work well with airlines because I understand kind of the challenges. So pick something you've got an experience in. It can be absolutely anything, and then try and identify customers that are in that niche, and at least you talk as if you add a value by being a consultant. The other thing is, what is your drive? And I think, Sarah, you're going to talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So we're going to kind of dive into what drives you into going into this business. And the hint right here is it's not to make money. So I'd kind of like you all to just take a minute right now, think about what really motivated you to go into this industry and what drives your business. Feel free to write any comments in, or if you have any questions, we'll be answering those along the way as well. All right, so Simon Sinek, he came up with the golden circle, and basically he's kind of digging into what drives people, what motivates them to go into business. Now, the beginning of it is the why. So this is why your business exists. Next, it goes into how. So how the business fulfills that core belief and what the company does to fulfill that core belief. And coincidentally, a lot of companies end up doing this backwards. So they start with the what. And a great example of a company that starts with why is Apple. So you need to come up with something that separates you from others. As Martin noted earlier, there's so much competition, so you need to come up with your niche. You need to come up with something that's going to separate you from others. So Apple is a great example that I like to use, because think of how many companies sell smartphones, smartwatches, computers. They don't start with pushing sales down your throat, buy our computer now. They start with, this is your lifestyle, we understand it, and by the way, we just happen to have a great product.
Absolutely, and I think that, these things all change over time, of course, because people that at my age, we probably saw different market leaders. In those days, it was Philips and Sony for VHS and Betamax. But what Apple have done a great job of is defining themselves as a complete brand, and such that I don't know how many cables you've all lost for charging an iPhone. I think I'm probably way above the average of everybody else, but I kind of feel better paying twice the price that Apple charged me for theirs versus the other one. I don't know why. It's the same color and same everything else, but they do a really good job of keeping you focused.
And Marissa wrote in here, helping people solve problems is her why. So that's great, Marissa. That's the exact mentality that you want. And so what you need to do is come up with a strategy for your niche and for promoting, why you love helping other people.
Yeah, and I think becoming becoming an expert in their field is what's going to separate you apart. Because if you are talking to a customer or prospect and you understand their pain, you understand what drives their business, what their metrics are, what their ROI is expected to be, what they want out of this, because it's not just a pen or a koozie or a backpack. It's actually fundamental to their marketing mix. Then when you're kind of sitting chatting, the reality is, as a very smart friend of mine said recently, nobody is that bored that they call up someone to discuss promotional products. Everybody's got something else to do. So his argument is that if somebody calls you or they take your call, they want to order. It's just your fault if they don't. It's his way of looking at things, and I agree with that. So if you can appear to be the expert, or at least have an understanding, and somebody says, hey, we're really looking to the CES show in January, and you happen to know they're an electronics company or a brand, then you should know that's the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and when it is and why it is. Because then when you say, hey, yeah, look, do you want me to get it into your hotel 2 days earlier because we know how busy it is there, they get the feeling you're feeling their pain, you're understanding it. So it's knowing your customers is never more important than today.
Absolutely, and we really want to stress finding your niche, because when you come up with your marketing plan, you're going to attract the right customers, and you're going to stand out as opposed to your competition.
Yeah, and just taking that idea, the niche can be either an industry, it can be a time of the year, it can be an event, but it's basically becoming the expert. So if you wanted to send out communication to customers now, I mean, it's very easy, by the way, to go on the CES website right now, find all the smaller companies that are exhibiting, and call and say, hey, not sure if you remember, but obviously you're going to be there in 2.5 weeks' time. We still have these great products that really fit your brand that you can get in time. You are going to get orders because, like all of us, they've probably spent all their time on the exhibition stand and the marketing and their invites for VIPs, but forgotten the part that we know has the highest ROI and measurable ROI in marketing, which is merchandise.
And I know one of the notes right here, it says email marketing that doesn't focus on the what, but the why. So what you want to do is provide your customers with sort of educational materials that's going to help them. And then in turn, they'll see you as an expert, and that's when you can start going in with sort of the sale, so to speak.
Yeah.
So showcasing your expertise. So now that you know the niche that you want to focus on, these are the different ways that you're going to show customers that you are in fact the expert and you're the one that needs to be selected.
Yeah, so you've got to, as you say, find your why. That's important. Find your niche, and that again can be absolutely anything. If you just think about now your experiences in life, what you've been, what you've done. It may even be a customer you had 5 years ago, but you knew. I happened to be heading to Australia a couple of weeks ago, and I had a customer from 12, 14 years ago, and I was in Dubai, and I just sent him a message saying, hey, I'm going to be passing through, and we met up, and he said, hey, actually, do you want to supply us again? I said, well, actually, I'm not in that marketplace, so I'm happy to recommend you. But I was able to understand and remember the issues that they had as an airline from all those years ago. And then sharing your knowledge and your success and being an expert, they're all kind of the same thing. It's basically using social media, particularly LinkedIn, is a really strong area. And I see, I'm obviously connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn, and hopefully most of you on the call. If not, please do connect. But a lot of the things I see are 50% off baseball hats today and 30% off pens today. I don't really think that's establishing you as an expert. It's establishing you as a discounter. And if your customers and prospects see that, they're going to think, oh, who's cheap? I'm going to ring Bob or Fred. You want to start posting content or sharing content about the niche or niche even that you've chosen. And then you're going to, so right now, if you wanted to Google real estate price trends in Southern California, you'll find a great article, I'm sure, in 2 seconds, and you could share that. And if you're focusing on that real estate area, then you're becoming being seen as an expert. And then the next time somebody thinks, hey, I need some stuff, they're going to think, oh, Frida or Fred, they're experts.
So this kind of touches on what Martin mentioned earlier about finding your niche in multi-channel marketing. So it's one thing to have a niche in manufacturing or hospitality. It's another to really dig in deeper and having expertise in HR within manufacturing. So you kind of get into the brain of your customer, understand where they're coming from so that you can develop a plan for them to succeed.
Yeah, and actually there's a question just come in there about company stores. My customers asked me for a company store. Wow, help. Actually, I don't think that's a help. I think that's a great opportunity, and I don't know if there's some slides later on. We'll get into that. But this whole multi-channel marketing is so key because your customers are seeing you all the time, and really looking after your brand, which Apple do so well, and the kind of connection to that and the multi-channel are the same. So if you have a Facebook page and it's open to your customers, then unfortunately that Facebook page has to reflect your company's brand and values. And you don't unfortunately get a chance to go and rant about whatever it may be we all like to rant about on the day, because effectively this is a multi-channel approach and you don't know at what moment. Because effectively, if one of my buddies, Andrew, if he's got customers that might say, okay, well, I just need to find Andrew. Well, they just search his name. If the first thing that comes up is a picture of him kind of falling over at a holiday party versus his LinkedIn page that talks about his expertise and knowledge in the construction industry, It's not. They're probably going to move on to somebody else. So really brush up these skills and make sure people understand how the product that you're selling actually is tied into their overall goals.
So positioning, I'm sure at this point many of you are wondering, should my website be as a commodity seller or as a consultant? And the answer is you can actually have both. So the one thing you want to keep in mind is that you need to position yourself where you have a specific landing page for both, or a call to action for both, so that the customer doesn't necessarily get confused as to how to contact you.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a really important thing and touches on this idea of websites of earlier. Again, 5 or 7 years ago, I was asked, did a website matter? And absolutely. Does a transactional website matter? Absolutely, now it does. But websites are different than they used to be. A website used to be 4 or 5 pages with some products on and a link to a big database. And of course, the problem was that everybody just used that to copy and paste the description and go shop you around. But in actual fact, at times of the year, people don't want consultants. So it's kind of, I was back in London last week, and we had, as a problem, somebody threw, I don't know, some fat or something down the sink, and then it all congealed, and before we know it, we've got, everything's blocked up in the house. Well, at that stage, the truth is, I just wanted somebody to come and clear the drain, and we have a company called Dynarod, and they come down and they pass this tube, I don't know how they do it, and charge you $300. But the point, I called them, and I said, hey, I've got a blocked drain. They didn't say to me, okay, well, we're just thinking about the age of your house and, how it's, 1920s, and would you like the pipes to be cohesive and fit in with your overall values of your house? They didn't say that. They just said, okay, we'll be there at 2 o'clock. Had they have gone down that whole kind of spiel about trying to make a friend, I probably would have gone to somebody else, because at that time I wanted somebody who was the expert in solving my problem. So there are times when somebody just wants 500 caps or bags or pens or whatever it may be, and they're calling you because it's not their core job, it's not their main job, but they want it sorting out. So now it's as important that when you answer the phone or take the inquiry, and if you don't have, for instance, online chat on your website, you must get online chat this afternoon. This is the greatest source of leads for everybody. A good free tip. There's a company called Talk. It's TAWK.TO. That's TAWK.TO. It's free, which to me is the best price. But unusually, it's also the best one. It takes 2 minutes to add it to your website. And you will see, you will have, I almost guarantee this, if you switch that on, even have a little app, you will get an inquiry in the first week just from that, because somebody's seen your website. They don't feel like calling you. 86% of buyers today will not call a salesperson. 92% will not see a salesperson. So we all ourselves use Talk, online chat. So what you're trying to do here is position yourself as, look, if you need me to unblock the drain, I'm your person. I'm your man. I'm going to unblock your drain for you. If you need me to design you a whole new kitchen, I'm your man. And that's what we're trying to say. But if you mix up the two, if you try and design a whole new kitchen while I just need the drain unblocking or vice versa, it's not going to work. So the answer is definitely both, and you can have pages on your website that do both.
Great, and now we're going to kind of examine a company that does a really great example of this. It's promotionalconsultants.com. So I'm going to analyze the top half of their homepage and the bottom half for you. So you can see they have a pretty captivating homepage. On the very upper left, they have a clear call to action. So it's get in touch. They have both a phone number and an email. So that's pretty basic. All of you should have that. If you notice in their menu, it's focused on services, not the product. So it's how they can help the customer. They're not shoving down their throat, buy now. They have social proof. So they have their social media buttons in the top right. Now, if you notice in their banner, they have check out our fresh ideas. So this is kind of showcasing their expertise. It's a teaser. It's kind of showing them, showing the customer, this is what we can do for you. Here's a little taste of it. Then you notice they have another clear call to action, so there's a button. So all of this is just making it easy for the end user, because you don't want them searching for information, getting frustrated, and leaving your website. Everything should be simple, to the point, right away.
Okay, so, and I guess the other part about this, it's actually quite a nice image and not complicated. I mean, this isn't a really complicated, site to manage at all. They've just done a few key points, clear call to action, focus on service and products, rather products I really like, and it's easy to use. It's a mobile optimized site. Social proof is very important. The most important all these things is they're all free to you. It's not as if you have to spend any extra money to do it. You get it with your site and with just a little bit of work.
So this is still their homepage. This is the bottom half. What we do, so they clearly lay out their areas of expertise. So the moment somebody is going to this page, they see that they're an expert in their area. So they lay out their niche markets that they have their main expertise in. So this is key. They also have listed out their clients. So this is another aspect of credibility. You're going to go there and recognize Frito-Lay's or MasterCard. Another point of credibility is the organizations that they're a part of. They have those listed. And something else that a lot of people don't think about is the bottom menu mirrors the top. So all of this is just making it extremely simple for the customer to find what they want, no matter what part of the homepage they're on.
Yeah, and as you get more and more into this, there's some great, again, free tools, Google Analytics, which you can just plug the analytics code into your website, again, in 2 seconds. It's going to give you a lot of information if you take a look after a few weeks of where people are clicking when they get to your site, how long they're staying on time on page, and pages where they leave. And a page where they leave is basically, imagine a department store that's got a door next to every single rack of clothes. It's like you walk to the department store and you walk straight out again. Now, department stores don't have that benefit, so they can't really understand what's turning people off. Websites do. So effectively, what we're seeing in websites and people are succeeding is where they are positioning themselves as providers of services rather than products, but they are getting this credibility. And certainly if I was looking at this site, I go, wow, Bombardier, Frito, MasterCard, those are great names. Of course I can trust Martin's Marquis with their brand with these guys.
Yeah, the only thing I would say they're missing is live chat and perhaps a form for somebody to fill out, but I'm sure that's available when they click Get Started. But live chat is definitely something that you want to get on your website. It's free and it's easy to add. So next we're going to go into delivering the wow factor. So you've picked your niche, you've demonstrated your expertise, but next is taking it a step above and beyond to really stand out and wow your customer.
So, I think a lot of it is about getting remembered, and because there are so many people trying to sell people so much product, and you've got the kind of the large online sellers. I talk about people like Vistaprint and Zazzle in that respect. They're taking the orders for business cards, and now they're selling T-shirts and pens. The great news is they don't sell anything cheap. So what they sell on is service and reliability. And they do an okay job at that. In fact, they're a fast-growing business, and I think that their mission statement is the world leaders in mass customization. And so if a customer really wants 24 T-shirts tomorrow and doesn't mind paying $20, they're going to buy them and get them. What we're seeing some good evidence of is if you can get your prospect or customer engaged in you and they trust you and believe in you, the lifetime value, and again, this is something you might want to think about yourself, is how long do you keep your customers for? And if you think about that now, I guess you're probably all thinking, wow, I can't think when I lost a customer. So certainly we see that the length of time that you keep a customer for is 3 to 5 years. And the only time people tend to lose customers is when they have maybe the company merges, or hopefully not, but goes out of business, or the buyer changes. And the buyer changing, is something we've all seen. The person retires or leaves, moves on. The good is you might get an order from somewhere else, but that's a problem. So keeping your customers loyal and everyone in that department understanding what you do is important. So one of the areas that's real, and again, I think it's actually free to use, is these virtual presentations. You can go into a solution, you can use Technologo or one of the many others, and you can create these virtual presentations. Now they save time because you upload the logo once and it appears on every single product. And what it means is, and what I see people doing really well when they're talking on the phone to somebody, and I hear this as in one of our customers' offices last week in the UK, and I was walking out with one of the guys for lunch, as I do, and I just stopped for a second and heard the person say, are you by your computer? So I just stopped to listen, and the person obviously said yes, and they said, here, I'm just sending you a link. And the sales consultant sent a link there and then to their customer, which actually was a link to a website that they put together with all their products, and they've done it in 2 minutes. Like a virtual presentation, but as a kind of an instant company store. And you then could hear them talking about flicking through they only had 2 pens on there, 2 coffee cups, 2 bags, But effectively, they were completely engaged. So they took virtual presentations to another level. But these things are so great. And if you're finding a bit of a quiet time, but you've discovered some beautiful new items, you can go to the person's website, customer website, right-click that logo, download, save to desktop, and then upload into a virtual presentation. It will take you about 30 seconds. You can then send an email to them saying, hey, saw these great items and thought of you. You haven't printed anything, it's not cost you anything, and you've built this credibility of, wow, they know what I want. Now, all I would say about that is make sure that when you do that, select products of the right color and type for your customer. Again, make sure you understand the customer. But these things are just so powerful, and again, like online chat, they're free. The other really important thing that everyone, and the reason why we are so focused on online chat is that when I want to buy something, I want to buy it now. And I'll go back to my example of my block drain. I actually had to ring 3 people. 2 I had to leave a message, and I finally got to one that I spoke to. And 3 hours later, one of them called me back, and 2 days later, the one called me back. And I said to the one 2 days later, I left a message saying I had a block drain. Why would you think that I'm going to need it fixing 2 days later? Well, that was money they could have had, and obviously they were upset they didn't get the order and whatever. But response time is really important. Now, within the first hour is the slide here, but the reality is that 5 minutes is a long time in the online world. So it's why if you're going to have an email or a form or whatever on your website, make sure it's not going to some general address. It's going to you, and you respond instantly. And the response really should be, pick up the phone, call them and say, hey, thanks for the inquiry. I just want you to know I've got it and I'm working on it. And then it gives you a chance to ask some more questions. But a speedy response time is proven. I think, Sarah, the statistics were that after 5 minutes, your response chance goes down by 90%.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is, from research, that if after 5 minutes, your chance of getting that order reduces by 90%. So you really want to be stalking your online chat and your email, your sales emails.
Client testimonials. So this is going to tie back into your credibility. Testimonials, they strengthen your credibility. So any moment that you have a chance to ask a customer who seems happy or satisfied, somebody that you've been working with over the years. I know Martin said the average customer you have for at least 3 years. You should be able to rack up client testimonials fairly easy. So a great way to do this is to simply ask. I know a lot of distributors are a little bit shy about asking and they feel they're being too forward, but a satisfied customer will go above and beyond in writing a testimonial for you if they're really satisfied. And you can put them on multiple areas. So you can put it on your blogs, brochures, websites, emails, direct mail, and even YouTube. Video is a great area to take advantage of, and it's huge for SEO as well.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the time, you kind of nowadays you get some particularly larger customers that are reluctant to give testimonials because that may not be their corporate policy. But instead of that, you can certainly get LinkedIn testimonials, which people will do, and often they'll do it if you want one for them. But you can make it really simple, and you can just say to it, if you're with somebody, you've just done a great job, say, look, our SEO company say we're lacking testimonials and we've never got around to it, but is there something you could do for me? And if they go, oh, well, I'm a bit busy, you could even offer to say, look, what if I jotted down a few suggested words and you just confirm you liked it? You don't need to go crazy. They don't need to call you the genius, the best person in the world. It just basically gives some added credibility. Some websites I've seen, they have testimonials. They don't even have the name of the person who wrote them. It's fine. People perceive it as being real. So and that's a really important part. And sharing it across networks, as Sarah said, is important.
So one more step into delivering a wow factor is handwritten notes. So, I mean, how often do you receive a handwritten note now? Everything is done on the computer, and I actually received one the other day. I don't drive a Kia anymore, but I used to, and they sent me a letter I would have otherwise thrown away, but I thought it was like from my parents or something. So I opened it. It was actually really sweet. It just said they missed me as a customer and wanted to know what they could do to get me back. And it was just really heartfelt, I thought, and it was a nice extra touch.
And we got a confession that Sarah drove a Kia there.
I know.
So this has been a very useful.
I was in college.
A useful session. So basically, if you think about it, interestingly, for those who remember fax machines, You know, fax machines years ago, 15 years ago, they stopped getting a response because people were getting annoyed that people using up their fax paper with offers of free of low-cost fax paper. And but in actual fact, recently, people who've tried fax campaigns again, they're getting a tremendous response. There's not as many fax numbers around, but because very few faxes ever come through is interesting. But handwritten notes is really, I think, one of the things that separates, you know, the OK from the champions. And I think you can't do it too often, but I think you've got a new customer. It's a great thing, particularly if you can, in that, you know, put in your cell number and say, you know, that you've served you, just make a note of this and add a card if they haven't already got one. But if something's happened, even if it's a service recovery, if something got there a day late and your customer's doing fine about it, there's nothing wrong with sending a little note saying, just say I acknowledge it, you know, I've looked into it, it's not going to happen again, and I really appreciate your loyalty. Yeah. People just love those things, and by the way, they get passed around the office. It's one of those things that gets shared around the office. Oh, isn't this nice? And what you're doing there is you're preparing for the future when the person might not be there. So handwritten notes, and there's quite a lot of research that says, you know, just go to, you know, wherever it is, Target or wherever, where these things are on sale, and just get these little notes. Don't get one made with your campaign logo on. There's no need. It's just basically seen. Clearly, probably don't have it perfumed and all, pink, whatever, but just a nice little thank you card or whatever it may be, handwritten, pop it in the post. Yeah. Great response.
Yeah, this is a great time of year as well, just to say happy holidays, thinking of you, thanks for being a great customer.
So company stores are something that's really changed, and some of the large online sellers are making a big deal of this. What they're going to is they're saying to your customers, look, don't hold any inventory, don't stress about all of this, have one company store, and people can go and click and buy, and they can buy one t-shirt or one coffee cup. And I know that that's kind of shocking to all of us, that is a business to even be in. The reality is that people like eBay are extremely successful in their business, making money $1 at a time. There's nothing wrong with only making $1 on something, as long as you're not spending all your time on it. And I was with a friend for lunch. Yes, I do a lot of lunches, but I was with a friend for lunch on Friday last week, and he receives 1,400 orders a day for one coffee cup. But he's got his business set up to do that, and it's very, very profitable for him. But so right now, company stores are a great way of securing a customer and winning customers, and using the right technology, of course, is something we have. You can create company stores in 2 minutes. I mean, literally, you know, 2 or 3 minutes, and you can use them because they're inexpensive and very quick to create. What you can do is use us as a prospecting tool. So you can create a website with their logo on, with their logo on every product, and send it to them and say, hey, here, you know, in case you need to order something, here's a great website. But it's not cost you $100,000 to do. It's cost you nothing. It's cost you maybe 5 minutes.
So yeah, we covered a lot of ground today. So I see some of you writing comments right now. So how do you spell the chat website? So that's talk.to. So it's TAWK.TO. And the website that we reviewed was promotionalconsultants.com. And I see that Carl is actually filming some testimonials right now. That's a great job, Carl. If you have any other questions, yes, we will be sending out the PowerPoint presentation today, recorded. And yes.
Okay, so thank you, obviously, for taking the time to join us. There's going to be another follow-up webinar soon. Sarah will make sure that you get all the details, and if in the meantime I can answer anything, it's martin@customerfocus.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook or any other of those many social medias. And I'm right now here in California for the next week or so.
Yep, and you all have my email, so feel free to send me any questions that you have. And thank you so much for joining us today. Have a